Dear Samantha Connell, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the International ORP Executive Interview Series 2025. This year is particularly special as we celebrate our 25th anniversary of the International ORP Foundation in Cartagena de Indias, Colombia. We are so excited to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. So, before we start, let me take a brief moment to introduce you to our audience. Samantha Connell is an immediate past president of the International Occupational Hygiene Association and Global Health Programs Director at Indorama Ventures. Samantha is a recognized leader in occupational hygiene and workplace health. From leading international collaborations to integrating cutting-edge safety innovations, she's been at the forefront of improving worker well-being across various industries. Samantha, does everything sound correct?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. So before we jump into the questions, let's give our audience a quick roadmap of what's ahead. We will start with leadership, exploring how Samantha's journey has shaped her approach to occupational hygiene. Then we will shift gears to technology. Next, we will talk about the future of occupational hygiene. And finally, we will wrap up by discussing the role of collaboration. Samantha, are we ready to start?
Yes, let's go.
Amazing. So, Samantha, you played a key role in global occupational hygiene, both as president of the International Occupational Hygiene Association and the Global Health Programs Director at Indorama Ventures. Therefore, how have these experiences shaped your approach to advancing occupational health?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Many things come to mind actually over the years and through the different experiences. Um, I think one thing is the field of occupational hygiene and occupational health is already quite uh, it's a subject matter expert field, let's say, and it's already quite a detailed piece of occupational health and safety. And so I think, coming straight into the field with that expertise and having the impression that everyone would understand what you're talking about or also see the importance of the matters the same way that you do. For me, that turned out to be a bit of a misconception. I found out very quickly that it can be better to take a step back, zoom out, and also try to get on the same page with the people around you, whether that be generalists in occupational health and safety or operations personnel or others that you're working with, such as engineering or human resources. And so trying to get a sort of common basis at the beginning before jumping into the details and the expert advice, let's say, is very important. So finding a common ground. Something else that I've seen in both roles, as they're kind of on a global scale, let's say, is that for the most part, whether it be IOHA member organizations or Indorama sites, we're trying to achieve the same thing. We have the same mission of improving worker health. And it's really important to focus on collaboration among those organizations and sharing things that we've learned from areas that have already made the experiences or maybe do have the resources to implement things or or advance on certain topics. It's important to be able to share that with others so that we don't reinvent the wheel and that we can help others in their mission of improving worker health a little bit faster and also with let's say less painfully. And so sharing what we learn, sharing best practices, collaborating together is really important.
Such a forward-thinking strategy. So inspiring. And if I could ask, what initiatives are you currently focusing on to create healthier workplaces?
Um, a couple things. So in my day job, let's say, we're focusing on increasing awareness of occupational hygiene generally across the company, but that means also with our generalists. So a lot of our sites have um, generalist occupational health and safety professionals who kind of juggle a lot of different topics. So they're working on safety, health, environment, sometimes even quality, security, sustainability. And so trying to sort of increase the capacity in our company and also the capability for occupational hygiene. So we're doing that with putting some training modules out there and trying to speak a little bit more the language of exposure science, as we kind of refer to it in occupational hygiene, with our generalist population. And we're also putting some tools in place, like some software tools to help practitioners learn as they go, but also put useful tools in place so that they will see the benefit of having good, strong occupational hygiene programs. And so kind of training that in parallel and providing useful tools for them. And within IOHA, we're really focusing on still collaboration, with among our member associations or with partners, and then focusing also on building up those partnerships.
Great, such an ambitious focus. So, moving on, it cannot be denied that technology is shaking up occupational hygiene. From artificial intelligence powered risk assessment to real time exposure monitoring, we are now able to track and even predict risks before they happen. Thus, Samantha, with your expertise, how do you see technological advancements such as artificial intelligence transforming industrial hygiene?
Yeah, great question. I think there are many opportunities there. For one, just kind of performing basic tasks or using different technologies like not only artificial intelligence, but things like cameras and drones to, perform inspections in dangerous places where we might usually be concerned about the air quality, like in confined spaces. I think that's already very helpful to workers, and that's a sort of I won't say basic technology, but it's not necessarily yet artificial intelligence. But sometimes, using that footage and then doing things like predictive analytics to imagine what we could see occurring in the future is interesting. Um, I think we have an opportunity to use this technology as a risk communication tool. And so, for example, if we think about something like real-time detection and exposure monitoring, continuous exposure monitoring, in the past and still today, we use very often sampling and analytical techniques that might not seem they might seem a little bit abstract to people that we're talking to and how we get those results and where they come from. And using things like direct reading instrumentation really shows you what's happening in real time and can also show, trends and what's happening in the process. And it can be a really good tool when you're talking to your partners who are going to help you reduce those exposures, or when you're talking to workers who might need to understand where their exposures are coming from, can be very useful in that regard as well. And I think this hasn't been my personal experience, but I've seen presentations at conferences where, and this is particularly in the mining sector, where entire sites have been put on continuous monitoring, and you have an expert who's looking at this site from a distance and is able to use the information that they're gathering and help advise the site from afar. And I think that's really interesting as well. Something that is new to us as occupational hygienists is that we're able to collect more and more data nowadays. And in previous times, and even now, it's pretty typical that we get just a few samples. And we're not, we have to make decisions with very, very little information. And nowadays we have a lot more information and a lot more data that we can use. But for us, because that's new, we need to learn how to properly analyze that data, what to do with bigger data sets, and also make sure that we have good quality data.
Could not agree more. And is there any artificial intelligence driven tool you find particularly interesting?
What I really like with artificial intelligence is the opportunity to put together really good and interesting training content. And so training has always been sort of a difficult point, and getting the important messages across and making sure that workers have the right information, or that, for example, the generalists we're trying to train, that they also have the correct information to work with the expertise that we're providing. And so nowadays, the opportunity to do training with um, through either AI, as in, for example, using avatar and voiceover and things to make the videos more interesting themselves, so that people kind of can pay attention more and get the message across in different ways, as opposed to just, let's say, our typical PowerPoint type presentation. But also, again, using cameras and using footage from videos where we can show what's happening in a plant or more realistic situations and describe them and use different methods of communication with AI, I think is very helpful for people.
Such a compelling point. Modern technologies sound like a major step forward. So, as modern technologies are evolving, so does workplace health risks. From chemical exposures to mental health challenges, what key trends do you see shaping the future of occupational hygiene?
Yeah, I think it's interesting as, I mean, we evolve so quickly, and as occupational hygienists and health and safety professionals, we're meant to keep up with that, but sometimes it's really hard to see what's coming. I think in current trends, oh, there are so many things. I think, for example, the regulatory aspects of chemicals and the fact that we continuously get more and more data and can work towards updating our workplace exposure standards or occupational exposure limits. This is a very positive thing, but it also means that we need to also keep up technology wise. How can we monitor these things? How can we measure? How can we know where we are with respect to that occupational exposure limit? This is a continuous challenge for us. Um, I think with regards to mental health, the trend is more and more, at least from my perspective, or my impression is that it's coming more and more to the health and safety professionals. And I think we have really good tools in place, like we have had for other hazards or stressors to do risk assessments. But what do we do with that information? How do we get the right controls in place? How do we work with other professionals to ensure that um, what we're measuring in our risk assessments is getting controlled and implemented in the right way. And I think we're still learning there. There's a lot of good publications coming out and a lot of organizations working on that. But let's say that your everyday practitioner is still struggling with, how do I deal with this?
For sure, this really resonates. And building up on that, how small companies could keep up with evolving workplace risks as well.
Great question. I think small and medium enterprises have always struggled with this because they often don't have, the professionals in the company to work on these things. Um, I hope as time goes on that we'll be able to develop resources that they also can adapt in their companies and implement. I hope in general that as time goes on, the trend of moving towards a more holistic approach to worker health also takes shape. And we've got things in place now like total worker health or others where when we consider the holistic the worker, the total worker, let's say, and holistically all of the aspects that affect their health in the workplace. It can be also that with approaches like that, small and medium enterprises are also able to address or work towards improving health and safety issues through other means as well. So making sure that workers also have other aspects of their work life that those are taking shape in a positive way and that it's positively affecting safety and health as well.
Absolutely, cannot agree more. And assuming everything we have discussed so far, let's take a look at the role of collaboration. This year, we are proud to celebrate 25 years of the International ORP Foundation in Cartagena de Indias, Colombia. Samantha, what key topics do you believe should be prioritized in discussions this year?
I can see, going off of that last question as well, I would love to see holistic approaches to health and safety discussed more. And I think that also means how occupational safety and health relates to social sustainability. And so I think, as a profession, fitting ourselves also into that sort of ESG aspect, which is so popular nowadays and which all companies are paying attention to, is very important. And I think we can't talk about that enough. Technology, of course, remains an ongoing topic. How can we use that to our advantage? Um, and I also think, if I'm not mistaken, the conference is coming off the back of Expo 2025 and the Global Initiative for Safety, Health, and Wellbeing days that will take part there. And I would love to see, some of those topics that we've discussed at the Expo being discussed further at ORP. We'll have so many partners together in the same place and an opportunity to exchange and hopefully shape the future of OSH together. And I would love to see that discussed further afterward.
Such a beautiful perspective. And how could we ensure that the momentum from such events continues afterward?
think collaboration and partnerships are so important. There are so many professional organizations out there that are, have the same goal. And in these past couple of years with IOHA and currently, we're just continuing to try and strengthen those partnerships and find ways to collaborate, find ways where our paths cross, and also get differing perspectives. So maybe we don't have exactly the same goals, but we might have ways to go at addressing each other's problems together. And so I think that's really important.
This is such a powerful takeaway. Thank you so much. And before we close, do you have any final thoughts or words of advice to our audience?
I think this is an incredible series with a lot of information and thoughts coming from many experienced professionals. And so I would say just to have a look and take what you can from all of it.
Such a bold advice. And I would like to thank you again and our audience for joining us today. And last but not least, I would like to remind everyone that the 25th anniversary of the International ORP Foundation is just around the corner. Stay safe, stay proactive, and follow our official channels for more inspiring conversations like these. Bye bye!
Bye. Thank you so much.